it.
All right, let's go ahead and get started because we have a really, I think, an exciting and necessary conversation that needs to be had. And it's so interesting. I feel like ever since I've started doing this work with my production company, and I always call it an edutainment production company because in addition to the art, I want to do outreach and extension
Yeah.
projects to where people can get their healing. And so with this, it's been so interesting to be able to name some of the experiences that I've been through, including mom guilt. And I'm not sure I ever heard it coined that way.
Okay.
And then I saw your work. So before I get too far down the line, I first of all want to introduce myself and then I'll have you introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Ray Dre. I am owner and creative director of Ray Dre Presents, which is an edutainment production company rooted in community building and healing. This is actually an extension of my first production, Woo Child, Black Women Working, which is actually a musical that will debut early next year. So I'm really excited. And I've just been having an opportunity to just connect with dope Black women on this project, which includes you. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you.
All right, everybody. I'm Latoya Smith. Man, I don't even know what I want to say about myself. So I'm an educator, firstly, I suppose, and a writer. Right, those are like my two things that I do. When did I write Overcoming Mom Guilt? About 2 years ago or so. Hi, Dana. I wrote Overcoming Mom Guilt. It is a transcriptive journal for moms. It is available. You can DM me. I also have a story available. It's $20 and it's really groundbreaking because it allows us to ask questions that we need to ask of ourselves in order to be the best us for our babies. And so I'm not going to go into it too much just yet, but it's a necessary piece of work and I loved like putting everything into it. I love talking to moms all the time about the things that are kind of grinding their gears and what they need help with. And honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, I think it's where I need to be right now. Like I put this job because the schedule was good. And yesterday I got the email. It was like, oh, we picked somebody else. And I was like, dang, the schedule was perfect, but I didn't want the job. Like I literally don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Anyway,
Right.
but yes,
I
that's
love
me.
I love what you just said about, this I'm where I'm supposed to be. Man, when you really figure out where you're supposed to be, I read something, I think it was on social media, and it said, here is beautiful, right? And I'm one of those people, I will either live 5 years behind or 5 years ahead. So I've been really learning how to live in the now and just embrace the fact that here is beautiful. All right. So I want to kick things off for the sake of this conversation. I am asking you, as the expert, to define mom guilt.
All right. So without being too long-winded, because I am, mom guilt is basically going to cover like those feelings of mostly shame. Shame shows up a lot, right? And guilt is like its cousin. But shame and guilt associated with our own personal expectations about how we should be doing motherhood, and then also what other people think we should be doing too, right? Like, so anything that falls under that wheelhouse, and there are so many different things that mothers are guilty about. Um, and we can't touch on all of it, I guess, but there are some things I do want to discuss and just like talk to the group about how they feel about these things, or if they even have those feelings, because I know through my work that some women do not feel guilty about anything, and shout out to them. I think that's really dope. I, because guilt is something that I feel kind of easily, and I'm just like, okay, cool, you don't feel that, that's how are you
Right.
doing? Right?
Right. What's
That's cool.
that like? So I guess in that same vein, I'm interested to know, like, what does it look like in action? And how does it
So,
show up differently for Black women versus our counterparts?
all right, so I'm going to talk about myself mostly, right? So for me, it showed up as sadness and it showed up as depression. And I I do not do well with sadness. I'm okay with being mad. Me and mad are all right. We're good. Me and sad are not friends. And so I was like, what even is this? Like, I'm sad. Like, what do I do? All right. Depressed for like 2 years, had no idea. Zero clue. I if I like look at pictures of me in like 2 years postpartum when I had Levi, I'm like, girl, like my eyes were just like nothing. There were a lot of different reasons for that, right? So so it shows up like that. It shows up as anger sometimes, you know. And I think especially for Black women, because people don't really take our anxiety the right way. Sometimes we're anxious and it comes out as we're mad, and then people are afraid, so they just kind of leave us to float out there by ourselves. But yeah, sadness, anxiety, depression, those are like some of the main ways I see it showing up. And then of course those things manifest into maybe like substance abuse, drinking, failure of relationships. And that's one that again is not talked about enough. But the mom guilt, because you need help, right? You want to offload that. And sometimes it's on your partner and they're like, wait, I just got back from work. I don't really know what's going on, you know? And then you find yourself in a situation. But yeah, there are so many different manifestations of it that I have seen, and that I've talked to other moms who've dealt with the same thing. What about you? How do you feel like it shows up differently from
I would say the most recent example of me experiencing mom guilt, especially while working, is you know, I used to work at a place and I was working 12, 13, sometimes even 14-hour days. I mean, on the regular. And so like, you know, I'm literally chained to a laptop and my kids are asking me normal stuff like what's for dinner, and I'm aggravated. And it's like, you know, you're supposed to feed them, right? Like it's not like they were asking me to go above and beyond. It's just that anytime that they would interrupt me from the work, right? And I was in such an environment where it was all about the work and you had to get it done and everything was just, and so, and I'm not someone that yells and screams and you know what I mean? So, but I'm yelling and screaming at my kids and they're asking me the smallest things. And then after that, now I feel like shit because I didn't yell at her and all she was doing was asking me to show up and be her mom.
right?
So I would say that's the most recent example. But I would also say too, like just even like, and mom guilt is something that I'm definitely still trying to overcome. Just with like, if my kid makes a mistake, if they don't show up as their best self at school, it's like I'm attacking myself as a parent. When it's like, well, no, like they're human and they're having a very human experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are just some examples that I could think of off the top of my head.
For sure. Hey, everybody who just joined, Black Girl, that's my other homegirl that I know through here. She's amazing. You know that struggle, Dana. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we've definitely all been there. Right now, what I know for sure is that we need somebody to talk to about it. This girl who was in my class my first year teaching, she confided in me with like some heavy stuff. And like, let me go backwards a little bit, but that's the problem with mom guilt though, because people don't talk about it, because there are some elements of it that are embarrassing, or people are kind of concerned for you, like go to the psych ward, like is she serious? Because it can go very far. Like I've read accounts of people just expressing like having a newborn baby and saying, you know, I feel bad or I've been crying, and they get their babies taken away from them. Like it's so you can't confide in everybody, and not everybody takes it seriously. You know what I mean? Like I think there's no way to talk about parenting without talking about culture too. And a lot of stuff I would tell my mom or my grandmother, like,
Toya, you cut out. I want you to say your culture again just so that they can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm Jamaican, and so many of the things that I told my mom, my grandmother, my auntie, there's like, you know, it's, and I'm like, no, actually, it's not. Actually, like, it's a problem for me, right? But you know, when we're talking about generations of women who have gotten knocked down and kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going, they don't can't do the same thing. Or why you're raising your hand to say, hold on, this doesn't feel good. And that's another thing.
So, you know what? I think that brings us into a segment that we kind of talked about as far as, is mom guilt ancestral or can it be passed down? And you and I landed on two very different things. So I would love for you to kind of speak to your thoughts around that, and then I can hop in.
So I think it can be, but again, these women who are dealing with these loads and loads of trauma, like I was thinking earlier about how we all become our moms at some point or another, right? A little bit, a lot of bit, like because we're in a circle, we're doing the same things over and over again. And I'm just like, I'm very confrontational So I remember like being younger and being like, Mom, why is this the man you pick? You know what I'm saying? And like, he don't bother me. And I'm like, it seems like he bothers you. You know what I mean? Like what? And then later on, like he passed, and we were able to have some different kinds of conversations about the origin of that relationship, right? How it even started, and then her truth about how that impacted us. And so, without veering off course too much, I think it can be like generational because everything is, but I really feel like unless they're lying to, right, the women that I've talked to, I think they brushed it off because that's what they used to do. If we have the time, we have the resources, we have the education, we have the ears to tell somebody like, man, I really wish I wouldn't have had a baby with him. And and it's like, yeah, that's crazy. Or how do you manage when you go to the soccer game when like our grandmother, whatever, it was just like, that's Delroy, he's over there, and just through hell. But like you don't even know to say anything about it because you had to move on.
Pause. Delroy is such a Jamaican, old Jamaican man name. Can we just pause for a second and acknowledge that? So here's the thing. My thoughts. I think that mom guilt is absolutely ancestral, and the reason why I say that is because um, we pass down wealth. We pass down hair texture, eye color. Jeanette, we pass down everything. Why wouldn't we not pass down guilt, which is a form of trauma? And I've been slowly reading this book called My Grandmother's Hands. It's by an author named Resmaa Menakem. And he talks about how like trauma in our bodies does not leave for 7 generations. And we ain't living, right? We ain't living for 7 generations. Yeah. And as women, we are born with all of the eggs that we are going to have. So when you think about it, my grandmother actually carried me. So I don't think we realize how ancient we are, right? And how long we've been around. And so that's why I really believe, especially when you think about women carrying trauma and guilt in their womb, I truly believe that as we come through, as we pass through, then, guilt can be passed down to us. And then I also think just from, maybe not so much of a deep perspective, but I look at my own, I grew up with a bomb ass mom. My mom was amazing. Was she perfect? No, but she was so intentional. She loved us. She wasn't out here like beating on us and being crazy. She invested in, the things that we were interested in. My mom can crochet and like, and make butter cookies. Like, she was absolutely amazing. And yet I saw her walking around beating up on herself all the time. All the time. And so because I saw her doing that, I mimicked that and did the same thing in my marriage and with my kids. Oh, so Kiana, I know you have that question. Can mom guilt skip a generation? Do we want to go ahead and tap into that question, or?
I'm sure. Like again, I'm always probably thinking too much. But like I remember, I didn't know that my mom was adopted till I was an adult. I graduated from Cookman. We went to Jamaica. We were talking, and she was like, "Yeah, my mom, she had about 12 kids, and back then the system, if somebody needed a kid to like help out around the house, you just went. There's no formal, paperwork or anything." And that broke my heart because my mom is so sweet and just like so gentle. I mean, she did whip my ass a lot, but I was, yeah, but such a sweetheart. And I'm just like, so nobody like loved up on you, nobody held you, nobody like Eskimo kissed you. That's nuts. And you know what? I think that coupled with some other things like trauma and stuff, but was making me hold on to my kids so tight. Like, okay, like, no, I'm gonna stay home with them. No, they're not gonna go to school. No, they're not gonna do this. Just being fearful because I'm like, no, I have to make sure they're like close to my chest. I have to make sure they're loved. I have to make sure they know that like I'm here for them. That's nuts. Cause what you know what I mean? But it's
Yeah, I think just like maybe circling back to Kiana's questions around can it skip generations? I think, of course, I think we don't inherit everything that we have from our parents or, you know, all of their traits. And also shout out to Kiana. So Kiana actually owns, she's a Black woman. She owns a construction company.
That's
She got
cute.
hundreds. I went to high school with Kiana. Hundreds of employees. She operates in Cleveland as well as Florida. And I know you're doing some other stuff, Kiana. And today is also her birthday. So happy birthday, Kiana. I'm so proud of you. I see you, sis. Okay. So since we're still kind of talking about our parents or previous generations, I'm interested to know, do you in what ways was maybe parenting easier or harder for our parents or our mothers, and how did that look like in terms of how did mom guilt maybe manifest itself in those ways?
I'm gonna say that it was easier for them, and my mom would probably be like, "Girl,
I
please," but
agree.
right, like, because I feel like they didn't. I'm not gonna say they didn't take it as seriously, right? But we have so much information now. We have so much in our faces. We have so much like you should do this, you have to do this, you need to do this, and before and a village. And I don't even want to get started on the village because that's like a whole nother thing, right? We shouldn't be raising these babies in isolation, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
um you know, I don't agree that grandma should always have the kids. Grandma already raised the kids, leave her alone. But they had a lot of help. And
Mm-hmm.
like my family being in Florida and being in the Caribbean, like right now, it's just me, my boyfriend, and my kids. And like we love each other down. But that was like one of the main reasons why we even moved in together. It wasn't because like, oh no, I have to see you every second. It was like, all right, we're moving together, we join forces, we can watch each other's babies and we can live life still. And I was like, that's amazing. And you know, but yeah, it's I think it was easier for them. And again, I'm not gonna say they didn't care. I'm gonna just say they didn't have as much like pressure on them to do this or do that or whatever.
Right. So there's a comment in the chat from DeSilvia. It says, especially in Jamaica, the expectations were lower back then. Feed them and clothe them, and you're good. And you know what? I would have to say I completely agree. When I think about the freedom that I had at age 13, when I say I was outside, I was outside. I was on my bike, and my parents didn't know where I was. They just knew that I would be back home. Right.
Right?
And then
Yeah.
I think about that with my 13-year-old boy right now, and it's like, that's not happening. And I think about even with like, what is a play date? We didn't have play dates
We
growing
didn't
up.
know.
Now we have to curate all of these social experiences for our children. And now you got all of these allergies that have emerged that weren't a thing back then, and gluten free, and this and that and the other. You know, all of these different diagnoses that just weren't out back then. And that's not to say they didn't exist,
Yeah.
but you know, I feel like our lives are we are conditioned now as parents to be very hypervigilant.
Yep.
And with hypervigilance comes guilt,
Come.
especially when you feel like you're dropping the ball.
Yeah, guilt and stress. And like, because when I talk to women and they're telling me that they feel bad that their kids are in soccer, it's like, okay, that's valid because all of our feelings are right. But does this baby even want to play? And like, what else can we do? Like, where else can we find things for them to get involved? And who says they even have to do that? Like, what blueprint? And that's something I tell moms all the time: be the type of mom you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, I am not theme park mom. You will not catch me there. It's too much. I am lake mom, beach mom, park mom, museum mom, science center mom. Let's go get some food mom. But
I'm amusement park mom.
you
Put
are?
me on the roller coasters. I hate museums, and I do not want to go to the park. So I feel like, and I think I think I remember you putting a post up about like, what is your brand of motherhood,
Yes.
right? And that was such a thought-provoking question, because I was just like, yeah, what is my brand, and what are some things that I'm willing to challenge and also ultimately let go around what I thought motherhood should be. Oh, this is really good. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about how has mom guilt impacted Black women in the workplace? What does that look like?
Um, I think it looks like us not getting our just due. I think it looks like us getting looked over for promotions and things like that because people know that like we care about our families, and other people who don't have families and don't like have things to do or obligations or what have you, they can pretty much, I don't know, like do everything, and then they're revered as a more valuable employee, I would say. I know I had an experience like that where I was like, you know, I worked something out with my manager that, okay, I'm going to pick Levi up at this time because if I don't, he's going to freak out. And then, like, because other people in this watching it and seeing me leave early and they feel like they can't leave early because they haven't opened their mouth to even say, I have a need, right? Mind your damn business. Then, like, oh, why is Latoya getting favoritism? Because she has her baby. It's not your business. Like, you
Right.
don't, right? But again, but those things. And, like I said, I think it just looks over. It turns into us being looked over, or not even being hired, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
not even hired because there's an obligation there that we have to like work on that I think corporate might not be down with.
Can I extend that a little bit?
Yeah,
I also can see it going the absolute, other extreme where it shows up as I'm going to be so committed to work that I am willing to not willfully put my kids as a lesser priority, but I'm going to work as if I don't have children. So missing moments in your child's life, whether it's a school program or whatever, because work is the priority. And some women just don't have that choice,
yeah,
right? Like if you got a shift and I remember you said something along the lines of like, mom guilt can definitely be a luxury, right? You know what I mean? And so, we got to also make sure that we make space for the women that are, working at fast food restaurants or, working in housekeeping and things like that, where they don't necessarily have the ability to advocate
yeah.
for a lot of the things that we do.
That
So,
that's a good point. And also, I was just gonna mention that a lot of the women that I speak to have mom guilt around how much they do work, and they feel justified in doing so for a number of reasons. They've worked hard for their goals, right? For their education. Why would you not want to, do what you said you were gonna do? You have
mhm.
these, and you're not working at a job that is going to allow, or in a career that's going to allow you to pay them back or have the quality of life that you want. Like sometimes we do have to choose, and there's nothing wrong with it. I see it work beautifully for some people because it's not like momming. That's not like their thing, and I don't think it should be anybody's thing, really. I guess
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
my mother-in-law, but yeah, balance. Balance is always necessary, right? But like I was at the park with my daughter the other day, and I was like, yeah, this is the life. It was like 7:30 in the morning. We were walking around. She was eating donuts. She was, doing her thing. And I was like, yeah, this is it. This is what I like.
Right. Oh, we got some good comments in the chat. Or doing both and being extremely overextended.
Mm,
Yeah, burning both ends of the candle, which is never good. Thank you for pointing that out, Jello. All right, so like we've kind of talked about what is mom guilt, our mother's own experiences with mom guilt, and then we talked a little bit about what mom guilt looks in the workplace. I want to give myself as well as the people who are, listening in on this call, maybe some tools around how to ultimately overcome mom guilt. And if you're just joining us, Latoya Smith is the author of Overcoming Mom Guilt, and it will be added to our reading list for Ray Dre Presents. And she can also talk to you about how you can get copies. But as I'm thumbing through this, I'm looking at these questions, and it's like you left no stone unturned, and you were very meticulous and intentional about the questions that you were asking, where it's just like, wow. So I want to delve into this a little bit. How did you overcome mom guilt?
I had to call it out. I was pregnant with my daughter, and while I wanted to be excited because, I love babies and that whole thing, I just was catapulted back to having Levi and being in the hospital for almost 4 months and feeling like a lunatic. And, having really worked hard for my credentials and wanting to, have my career and all this stuff. And then, like, he's born and he's super sick, and all I am is his mother, right? And so when I got pregnant with Story, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, not again, right? Um, and so that's honestly where the journal came from. I laid in my bed and was like, what do I want to ask myself? Like, what would I want answers to from myself? That was the first thing. So I basically wrote it out. That's how I saw so many of my issues, right? And then I got real with the status of my mind, and I just was like, you're anxious, you're fearful, like, and you have to do something about it in one way or another, right? And I think, again, the journaling helped a lot. And I talked to my mom. I think, like, we cannot, I know everybody doesn't have like the best relationship with their mom, right? For a while I didn't either. I've been a daddy's girl for a very long time. But I talked to my mom and I told her, like, I felt, and I was just like, Mom, there's no way I'm gonna love another baby like I love Levi. Like, this is such a futile effort, right? And she was like, oh no, girl, like, your heart will make it. And again, talking about it, and even if the stuff sounded really stupid to say, I just said it. And that was like super cathartic as well, because I did have some people that would listen. And then the biggest part of it, which is like my daily practice, is just making sure that I'm okay. For example, I took Levi to the doctor this morning, and my toddler was with us. Obviously, they're kids. And he wanted to go to the library afterwards. And I'm like, of course, like, I love that. I was like, but let me go home and just take a break. I'm gonna go home, I'm going to take a break, and then we can do it. And stuff like that. Like, it seems small, but just being honest with me and kind of putting yourself first, right? Because I could have come to the library. I had a splitting headache, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to run around. Like, I know I'm thirsty. I know I need to use the bathroom. I know I need to, like, get something in my body. Like, it's okay if he waits, those types of things. And then herbal medicine. I take lemon balm every day. I use what is the other one? Blue vervain, passion flower. Like, I'm always brewing up something that is gonna keep me calm. Because when I start to go off the rail, like 7:30 every night, where my patience is done, they'll call me. Somebody will say, "Mommy," and I'll say, "What?" And I don't talk to anybody like that. It's always yes or yes, baby, or yes, pumpkin, or something. But when I say what, and then I have to say yes, I then I'm like, okay, you might need to go sit down. You might need to go for a few minutes. But it's just, again, it's the honesty of it. It's gonna save so many women just being 100% real and saying, I don't feel okay right now, and like, what would make me feel better. And it's just different for everybody.
Yeah, so I actually in the comments, Kiana said, not being able to be the mom I knew I could be and work in corporate America made me walk away and be a developer, and I bring my kids to work with me. I know that's
Oh,
right. So,
yeah,
and here's the thing, if I had to add my 2 cents, I gave the example of, the job that I was in, and it's like, I'm making great money, and it had the fancy title, but I was absolutely miserable. I had to walk away, and candidly, I took a $47,000 pay cut,
yeah,
and it hurt financially, but where I was going in terms of my mental health and my physical health, I had to make that decision. So understanding that, you might have to make some tough choices, but weighing the risk versus the benefits. Something else that I've been learning to do is just like figuring out what is my stuff, and what should I own, and what is their stuff. So you know what I mean? Society will have you thinking that you're supposed to be Claire Huxtable. Claire Huxtable was fine, dressed every day, hair was laid, a lawyer with 5 kids, no stretch marks, husband, a whole doctor. You know what I mean? And we'll think about modeling that. And it's just like, that's not me. And so just like understanding, like, again, what kind of mom am I? I'm the mom that's like, yeah, come on, let's go shopping. If you got something, coming up, I'm gonna make sure that you dress to the
Right.
nines, but as far as like, I'm not the mom that's gonna sit there and play Barbies with you. I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? So again, like owning my brand of parenthood. And then I also got me a bomb therapist, and she
Oh,
is actually on here. So shout out to you.
hey,
Yeah.
that is
So
fantastic. I love that. And that's transformative. I don't know if enough of us go to therapy. I tried it for like 2 or 3 sessions. It was with a white woman, and I'm not knocking white women. That's not what I'm here to do. But I was telling her some of the things I was going through, and she was like, "Oh, you're so strong." That was the last time homegirl saw me. Because
Pam, Miss Pam.
yeah, girl, that's not what we talking about. I am floundering here. I don't need you to. Yeah.
No, I have been in therapy probably for 7 years, and I don't think that there will ever be a time where I'm not in therapy. You know what I mean? I got to talk this thing out, and so you know, that has been truly a game changer. A game changer for me. We also said that we were going to talk. I know you talked about herbal medicine. We said that we would talk a little bit about
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals. And I used to be a drug rep, and I actually used to sell SSRIs and SNRIs for anxiety and depression. And so what I would say about that is, with that comes trial and error. And for some folks it just doesn't work. And so and for some folks it works really well. So what I would say is making sure that you're partnering with your healthcare provider, and being consistent. And it can't be a situation of, well, I tried it for a week and I ain't like it.
Mm,
No, you have to sit down with your healthcare provider, and just like how you have to get that stuff in your system, you can't just stop it.
yeah.
Because if you stop it, then that brings on a whole another set of side effects.
Right.
So I'm not going to knock pharmaceuticals, but make sure that you have a good doctor that listens to you, especially as a Black woman. And explore that route. All right. So I think we are ready to kind of like wrap the talking piece up, and then we can
Question.
entertain some questions.
I don't know why, but like I'm not seeing any new questions. Like all this stuff is old, and I don't know what to do. It could be because I got that call. I don't know what this button does. I to press it. Oh, that's gonna turn my camera around. Anyway, okay. Well, I guess you can read the
Yeah,
question.
let me look through the previous questions. Oh, y'all been active in the chat. I see y'all.
I love it. And thank you guys for joining. Like, this is so near and dear to the both of us. And just like spending your time here, you could be feeding them kids or doing something or playing Barbies. But you're here with us. And I love that.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Okay, I'm just seeing a lot of comments. So Auntie Pam, hey Auntie Pam, she said there are many instances of Black mom guilt when it relates to our fruit. Missing school events and not being home when they arrive from school is a big one for me. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
A lot of self.
Any uh it said, or a child who is neurodivergent. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's a whole lot. That's a whole nother episode of conversation because that definitely plays into mom guilt too, because you always want to know what you did wrong or like what you could have done differently, and the answer is probably nothing.
I love this one. We were historically conditioned to not uplift or celebrate ourselves. I think that is so true.
Yeah, to even care
Yeah.
about it. It's a revolution.
Yeah, and I think too, like just like one way is celebrating the small stuff. So, when I think about mom guilt, and when I start getting in my head and I start saying all this crazy stuff to myself, you got to have some balance. And like, what are the things that you're doing well? I'm a great mom. I make sure that my kids are taken care of. And so making sure that like it's some positive inner self-talk happening.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm not seeing any any questions, just some great comments.
Okay.
This is priceless. So I think at this point, if you could share with us how we can get the book.
All right, guys. So I'm on Instagram and I'm also on TikTok, but Instagram is like my big if you go to my my bio, I've got a link tree. You can click that link or you can DM me and I will work with you that way for you to get a hold of this journal. Like I said, it's life changing, especially if you already like to journal and you really want to think intentionally about your mother and as a woman and soul. I think it's something worth having your hands on.
Yeah. So like, for example, one of the questions is, how did your friends and families feel about you? How did your friends and family feel about you being pregnant? And you know, when you sit down, when you sit with that question, right? So many women had different experiences. There may have been, you may have been a teenage mom, and your mom would have been very, very upset about the situation, right? And so, you know, that experience versus, you know, someone who's been praying to get pregnant and, you know, that kind of thing. And so, like, or the mom who's struggling with fertility, or, you know, future mom that's struggling with fertility, all of that can impact mom guilt. And so I was like, man, what a thought-provoking question. I'll say this really quickly before we wrap up. When I got pregnant with my daughter, I had a friend who was trying to get pregnant. And she was just like really struggling with it. And I could tell, like, when she saw my belly starting to get bigger, she really, really had a hard time with that. And so, like, you know, I felt bad for her, but then also, like, it was transference of guilt, right? Because of, you know, so, you know, again, make sure that you get this, because it'll really have you thinking about, you know, and it doesn't have to be like, I'm pregnant right now. Like, if you are a mom, or if you're thinking about being a mom, this is a great tool. I'm an adoptive mom as well, and that's a whole other layer when it comes to other people's opinions. Ooh,
that and
so.
too.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So this will be added to the RayDrayPresents.com reading list. But I just want to, first of all, thank all of you for joining us. And I especially want to thank you, Latoya Smith, MFA,
yes.
for this amazing conversation. I think you are wonderful. And this cannot be the last conversation that we do. So make sure. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, no, it cannot. You're right. Like, you've unlocked something. I'm like, I need to start talking more.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Definitely. So follow her at Overcoming Mom Guilt on Instagram, and you know, stay tuned for more updates regarding Woo Child Black Women Working. This is my baby. I'm pushing it out there. I'm putting it out there, and I'm just I'm super excited. So thank you so much. We'll see y'all later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe right here on YouTube. And be sure to follow us at Ray Dray Presents on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. See you soon.